May 1945, an armoured Nazi train packed with gold, weapons, and priceless art vanished without a trace on its final journey from Wroclaw toward the secret labyrinth beneath Poland's Owl Mountains. For 80 years, its fate fueled legends, treasure hunts, and whispered rumours of the missing Amber Room. Now at last, physical evidence in the form of radar scans, a bombshell letter, and official documents suggests the impossible may be true. Could one of World War II's most tantalising mysteries finally be solved, and what was so valuable that the Nazis hid it deep in the earth, waiting to be found? This story begins where fact meets obsession. May 1945. The war in Europe is collapsing into chaos. Soviet armoured columns push westward, swallowing city after city. In Wroclaw, then known as Breslau, German officials scramble to evacuate what they can: files, weapons, and according to scattered records, something far more valuable. On a battered siding at the edge of the city, a special train is quietly assembled under heavy guard. Its manifest is missing from surviving archives, but fragments from Reichsbahn freight logs and scattered military orders point to a high-priority transport. Destination Wałbrzych, a town at the foot of the Owl Mountains. The rail lines out of Wroclaw are choked with retreating soldiers and refugees. Yet this train, armoured and sealed, is given passage. It moves at night, its route diverted by last-minute orders and reports of sabotage. The official timetable for early May lists only routine supply movements, but witness statements collected decades later recall a convoy of camouflaged carriages, windows blacked out, rumbling out of the city under cover of darkness. Some remember SS guards posted at the station. Others speak of heavy wooden crates loaded with frantic urgency. Maps from the period show the rail corridor snaking southwest, past Świebodzice and into Wałbrzych. By then, the front is less than 40 kilometers away. Wehrmacht and SS staff receive coded instructions to reroute special transports toward the mountains. In the confusion, the armoured train slips through, its passage marked by a single entry in a fragmentary station log, then nothing. No official record confirms its arrival in Wałbrzych. Allied and Soviet intelligence files from the time mention missing rolling stock and abandoned trains, but none match the description of this convoy. Post-war inventories of recovered Nazi material lists countless lost shipments, but the trail of this train ends abruptly somewhere between Wroclaw and the mountains. Its disappearance, recorded only in hints and second-hand accounts, becomes the seed of a legend that will haunt the region for generations. The armoured train, and whatever it carried, simply vanishes from history's official pages. Beneath the forested slopes of the Owl Mountains, a vast construction project unfolded in secrecy during the final years of the Third Reich. Codenamed Project Riese, German for giant, the undertaking called for a labyrinth of tunnels, bunkers, and reinforced chambers carved deep into the mountain rock. Officially, the purpose of these underground works was never recorded in full, but surviving blueprints and engineering notes reveal ambitions on a staggering scale. Over 9 kilometers of galleries were excavated by forced laborers, most drawn from Gross-Rosen concentration camp and its satellite camps. They worked in brutal conditions, blasting and shoring up passageways that, even unfinished, could swallow entire trains from view. The tunnels snake beneath the surface in a network that defies easy mapping. Some galleries stretch for hundreds of meters, with ceilings high enough for rail cars or heavy vehicles. Concrete walls and steel doors hint at plans for secure storage and command centers. At several points, the unfinished tunnels widen into vast caverns, their floors scored with the marks of rails and heavy machinery. The entrances, often hidden behind forest undergrowth or camouflaged by wartime crews, connect to the main Wroclaw to Wałbrzych railway by short sidings or concealed spurs. In the chaos of 1945, these features offered the perfect cover for a high-priority transport to vanish without a trace. Project Riese remained incomplete when the Soviets arrived. Construction halted abruptly, leaving behind abandoned equipment, piles of debris, and unfinished shafts. Post-war surveys catalogued at least 7 major tunnel complexes, with many corridors blocked by rubble or deliberately sealed. The full extent of the underground network remains uncertain, as decades of landslides and flooding have collapsed some sections, yet the scale and secrecy of the project have fueled persistent speculation that the tunnels were designed as more than just military headquarters. The possibility that they could hide entire trains along with whatever cargo they carried has drawn investigators and treasure hunters for generations. The engineering remains, a testament to the ambition and desperation of the regime's final months, still guard their secrets in darkness. Stories began to circulate almost as soon as the last gunfire faded in the Al Mountains. In the villages scattered along the old Wroclaw to Wałbrzych rail line, neighbours whispered of a train that vanished into the earth, its carriages disguised beneath branches and mud. Some said they had seen soldiers, young and nervous, faces streaked with grime, dragging tarps across the rails at dusk, then melting into the trees. Others recalled the rumble of heavy engines echoing through the valleys long after the official timetables had gone blank. Over the years, these fragments took on a life of their own, passed from one generation to the next. Retired railwaymen described boxcars painted to blend with the forest, windows covered in blackout cloth, and guards who warned children to keep away from certain sidings. A handful of locals claimed to know the exact spot where the rails dipped into a hillside and never reappeared. The post-war decades saw the legend grow, nourished by gaps in the official record and the persistent sense that something extraordinary had been hidden nearby. In smoky taverns and at family tables, the tale changed shape with each retelling. Some insisted that the train carried Nazi gold, bars stamped with the Reichsadler, looted from bank vaults and Jewish families across Europe. Others spoke of crates filled with priceless art, including the lost Amber Room, its golden panels and mosaics packed away in haste as the Red Army advanced. The Amber Room, missing since 1945, became a symbol of all that might lie sealed in those tunnels, its fate entwined with the mystery of the vanished train. Treasure hunters arrived with little more than shovels and local maps, drawn by rumours of hidden entrances and camouflaged doors. Amateur sleuths pored over wartime aerial photos, searching for unnatural shadows or patterns in the trees. Testimonies from elderly residents, memories of midnight convoys, of earth moved and then smoothed over, were recorded, catalogued, and debated by enthusiasts across Europe. Each new account, whether a fleeting glimpse of a covered wagon or a whispered warning from a long-dead soldier, added another layer to the myth. In time, the boundaries between fact and folklore blurred. The lost train became less a single event than a living story, its details shifting with each retelling, fueling an obsession that would span generations and set the stage for the era of scientific treasure hunting yet to come. In August 2015, 2 amateur explorers, Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter, arrived at a remote stretch of the Wroclaw to Wałbrzych railway, armed with a KS-700 ground-penetrating radar. Their target was Kilometre 65, a location whispered about in local legends but never conclusively mapped. The KS-700, a professional grade device capable of scanning up to 9 meters beneath the surface, swept back and forth over a narrow corridor beside the tracks. Within days, the pair announced a breakthrough, reporting a series of rectangular anomalies aligned in a formation that mirrored the dimensions of wartime rail wagons. The largest signal measured nearly 100 meters in total length, with distinct breaks suggesting the outlines of 3 to 4 separate cars, each roughly 12 meters long and 4 meters wide. At a depth of 8 to 9 meters, the radar returned high contrast reflections consistent with dense metal or reinforced structures. Coordinates and scan images were logged, with GPS readings confirming the location just outside the protected Swidnica Forest District. Koper and Richter released selected slices of their radar data to the press, highlighting the sharp, angular returns that set these anomalies apart from natural formations. According to their analysis, the shapes bore little resemblance to geological layers or roots, and the depth matched the expected burial for a concealed wartime train. The pair emphasized the regular spacing of the signals, arguing that only a man-made object could produce such a pattern. Their technical report referenced comparable scans from known rail tunnels, noting the similarity in radar profiles. The findings quickly drew attention from local officials and the Polish Ministry of Culture, who dispatched their own surveyors to review the site. For Koper and Richter, the readings from kilometre 65 offered the first tangible link between decades of rumour and the hard evidence of something hidden beneath the forest floor. The promise of buried steel and vanished cargo, captured in a series of digital echoes, reignited the search for the Nazi gold train on a scale not seen in generations. A week after the radar findings at kilometre 65, a geophysicist from Krakow University arrived in Wałbrzych carrying a sealed drive of the original scan data. There were no names and no prior contact with the search team. The independent review began in a windowless lab far from the excitement on the forest floor. Using industry-standard reprocessing tools, the geophysicist loaded the raw KS700 data and ran a series of blind analyses, applying alternative filters and comparing the anomaly signatures to reference scans from known railway tunnels and natural voids. The results told a more complicated story than the headlines suggested. In several slices, the sharp box-like shapes faded when analysed at different frequencies. The strongest returns, initially interpreted as steel or iron, could also be explained by dense clay seams or collapsed voids, features common in the hard packed soils of Lower Silesia. In places the signal scattered, hinting at root systems or pockets of moisture, rather than the crisp outline of a buried train. The anomalies were real, but ambiguous. To further test the claims, the reviewer overlaid the anomaly maps with historical geological surveys. The supposed train alignment sat atop a known clay ridge, a formation notorious for producing false positives in ground-penetrating radar. When the same analysis protocol was applied to control sites elsewhere in the region, similar patterns appeared, unconnected to any wartime construction or rolling stock. The clay ridge explained many of the returns. The final report, delivered to city officials and the Ministry of Culture, stopped short of outright dismissal. The anomalies were real, but their origin remained uncertain. Without excavation or corroborating physical evidence, the data could not confirm the presence of a train. The geophysicist's verdict was inconclusive, with a strong recommendation for further independent study before any deeper dig. For the scientists, the burden of proof remained heavy. For the public, the sense of mystery only deepened. Within days of the radar news, Wałbrzych found itself at the centre of a media storm. Headlines from Warsaw to New York speculated about buried Nazi treasure, while news crews arrived with satellite vans and translation teams. Local hotels filled to capacity as visitors poured in, hoping for a glimpse of the fabled site or a chance to join the search. Cafes and souvenir shops along the main square shifted their window displays to gold train mugs and Project Riese t-shirts. Tour guides dusted off wartime anecdotes for eager groups, some travelling from as far as Japan and Brazil. Officials at the Swidnica Forest District and City Hall began fielding calls from government ministries and international press. The Polish Culture Ministry dispatched representatives to monitor the site, citing the potential value of any recovered cultural property. City leaders, caught between excitement and caution, convened emergency meetings to discuss crowd control, environmental protections, and the growing demands for transparency. The mayor of Wałbrzych issued a public statement promising cooperation with national authorities and a commitment to preserving both the region's heritage and its forests. Social media fueled speculation, with amateur sleuths sharing satellite images and proposing their own theories about tunnel entrances. Local police increased patrols along the railway, warning against unauthorised digging. The surge of interest brought new scrutiny to the search methods and raised questions about who would control access and any future discoveries. As the world's attention turned to a quiet stretch of Silesian woodland, the stakes quickly outgrew the ambitions of individual treasure hunters. What began as a regional curiosity now demanded official oversight, scientific rigour, and a delicate balance between public fascination and the responsibilities of stewardship. By the spring of 2025, the search for the lost train entered a new phase of precision. The Gold Train 2025 Group, a coalition of engineers and amateur historians, unveiled a series of composite maps built from GPS and LiDAR surveys. Their data, collected over several months, revealed a cluster of voids beneath the surface near kilometre 65 of the Wroclaw to Wałbrzych railway, voids that aligned with the dimensions of wartime railway wagons. The team's topographic outputs, published in a widely shared digital report, displayed colour-coded cross-sections of the terrain, each one highlighting elongated cavities at depths of 8 to 10 metres. These shapes, mapped with sub-metre accuracy, suggested the presence of artificial structures rather than natural sinkholes or clay pockets. The group's release included detailed overlays, GPS tracks from their survey walks, LiDAR point clouds showing subtle depressions in the forest canopy, and annotated diagrams comparing the voids to standard German railcar blueprints from the 1940s. In press interviews, the Gold Train 2025 team described their findings as the most concrete evidence yet, far surpassing the ambiguous radar slices of a decade earlier. Their summary visualizations, though selective, were enough to draw renewed scrutiny from both officials and independent geophysicists. Public interest surged as these maps circulated online. For the first time, the legend of the Gold Train was anchored to a precise grid of coordinates and measurable anomalies. The Gold Train 2025 Group, now at the centre of the search, pressed for recognition of their methods and for official review of their findings. Their maps and the voids they revealed set the stage for the next wave of investigation, one that would soon hinge on the credibility of a single anonymously submitted letter and the promise of even more detailed geodetic data. On a cold January morning in 2025, a clerk at the Swidnica Forest District logged a sealed envelope into the official registry. The sender's name was missing. Inside, investigators found a typewritten letter bearing precise geodetic coordinates, site diagrams, and a stark description. 3 railway wagons, each 12 metres long, 4 metres wide, and 4 metres high, hidden behind a steel gate deep beneath the forest floor near kilometre 65. The technical language matched the output of modern GPS equipment, and the diagrams referenced tunnel sections mapped decades earlier but never fully explored. The letter's journey through official hands was meticulously documented. Intake logs recorded the envelope's arrival at 8:14 a.m. on January 19, 2025. The document was transferred to the district's legal department, then to the Archaeological Supervision Committee. Each step tracked and signed. Forensic analysis ordered by the city's Heritage Division soon followed. Specialists at the Wroclaw Department of Forensic Sciences tested the paper and ink, confirming both as standard, post-2010 European stock and commercial ribbon, with no evidence of forgery or alteration. The typeface pointed to a German-made Olympia typewriter, but no fingerprints or DNA could be recovered, only faint traces of glove fibres on the envelope. While the letter's physical authenticity was confirmed, its author remained a mystery. The document's chain of custody was unbroken. Fireproof archive storage, restricted access, and digital logs protected both the original and its scanned copies. Only a redacted excerpt with personal data blacked out was released to the press after a Freedom of Information request. Officials and forensic archivists described the letter as authentically recent, a genuine artifact but not proof of the claims within. The measurements matched wartime rail wagons, and the coordinates aligned with known tunnel anomalies, but the truth behind the anonymous informant's knowledge and the fate of the hidden train remained locked behind layers of bureaucracy and secrecy. Excavation plans at Kilometre 65 collided almost immediately with the realities of environmental law. The Swidnica Forest District, responsible for the protected woodlands above the suspected tunnel, issued a formal notice. Any search could disturb no more than 50 centimetres of soil. Deeper digging, officials warned, would require a lengthy permitting process and a full environmental impact review. The restriction was not negotiable. Beneath the thick canopy, every root system and moss-covered log fell under conservation rules that had been in place since the 1990s. The proposed removal of up to 60 trees, each one mapped and catalogued by district foresters, became a flashpoint between treasure hunters and the state. Permit documents circulated between City Hall, the Forest District, and the Regional Environmental Bureau, each stamped with warnings about soil erosion, habitat loss, and the risk of destabilising the tunnel ceiling. For the Gold Train 2025 group, the timing was excruciating. LiDAR and radar data pointed to anomalies meters below the surface, but the official cap meant only shallow test pits and surface scans were allowed. The district's chief official, speaking at a tense press briefing, cited both the letter of the law and the broader duty to preserve the forest's ecological integrity. He described the site as a living archive, where even minor disturbances could trigger landslides or destroy evidence of wartime activity. Conservationists joined the debate, warning that reckless excavation could erase not just trees, but the historical context of any discovery. While the world waited for answers, the searchers found themselves stalled by bureaucracy. Every request for a deeper borehole or expanded trench triggered a new round of environmental assessments and public comment periods. The clash between mounting physical evidence and regulatory barriers left the fate of the hidden train, and whatever secrets it might hold, locked beneath layers of legal paperwork and forest soil. At a packed press conference in June 2025, the Gold Train 2025 group unveiled a series of interior scans and documents said to originate from the sealed site beneath Kilometre 65. LiDAR cross-sections displayed on screens behind the speakers showed elongated metallic forms, aligned in parallel, each roughly 12 metres long and 4 metres wide. Dimensions consistent with World War II railway wagons. The scans revealed dense, high reflectivity zones inside the voids, suggesting the presence of metal crates or containers. Alongside these images, the group released excerpts from a leaked inventory list typed in German and marked with faded stamps. The list referenced military equipment, MG-42 machine guns, crates of ammunition, and sealed boxes labelled Kunstwerke. Other entries hinted at jewellery, gold ingots, and bundles of documents, though the descriptions were terse and often redacted. A representative from the Polish Culture Ministry stepped forward, reading from an official statement. The ministry, after reviewing the group's scans and inventory excerpts, estimated the potential value of the train's contents at over $200 million. The spokesperson confirmed the presence of what they termed military and cultural valuables, citing both the scan data and historical precedent for Nazi transports of looted art and bullion. The ministry's statement stopped short of authenticating the leaked documents, but emphasised the importance of safeguarding any recovered artefacts for restitution and public heritage. The press event also featured digital reconstructions of the tunnel interior built from the available scan data. These models depicted 3 boxcars, each separated by what appeared to be reinforced bulkheads. In one section, the scans suggested a concentration of dense material, possibly gold or heavy metals stacked in uniform rows. The inventory excerpts, though incomplete, aligned with wartime rumours of treasures hidden in the Owl Mountains. Crates marked with Reichsadler seals, paintings wrapped in oilcloth, and strong boxes with unknown contents. Despite the excitement, the presenters acknowledged that neither the scans nor the lists had been independently verified. The full inventory remained out of public reach, with only partial transcripts and blurred images circulated online. Still, the combination of high-value estimates, tantalizing inventory entries, and dramatic scan visuals drove a new surge of interest. The sense of possibility of a fortune lost for 80 years now within reach hung over the proceedings, raising both hopes and questions about what might finally be recovered from beneath the Silesian forest. Hundreds of kilometers from the Owl Mountains, another search was quietly unfolding in the forests outside Dziemiany. Here, the landscape holds its own wartime secrets: abandoned SS training grounds, overgrown bunkers, and rumours of hidden caches that have circulated since the 1940s. In August 2025, Polish heritage authorities granted permission for a new investigation at a site long whispered about in local legend. The search was led by Jan Delengowski, an American treasure hunter, who arrived with a team of field archaeologists and a stack of documents referencing a supposed confession by former Nazi official Erich Koch. According to these sources, treasures removed from East Prussia might have been hidden in the area as the Third Reich collapsed. The work in Dziemiany followed a strict archaeological protocol. Core drilling and geophysical surveys were permitted, but large-scale excavation was off the table until hard evidence justified it. The team used ground-penetrating radar and magnetometers to scan beneath the moss and pine needles, searching for signs of reinforced concrete or buried chambers. Early readings indicated the presence of underground structures, walls of poured concrete, soil anomalies consistent with bunker construction, and the faint outline of what could be a sealed entrance. Core samples pulled from the site revealed layers of gravel and broken brick, sandwiched against slabs of wartime concrete, but nothing resembling a train or vault of gold. As the investigation advanced, every artifact was logged, bagged, and reported to the Pomeranian Voivodeship Conservator of Monuments. Fragments of wire, rusted hardware, and a handful of military issue buttons were catalogued, each a small clue, but none offering proof of a hidden Nazi cache. The team's findings, shared in cautious updates, underscored the challenges of separating fact from folklore. Historians watching the dig reminded reporters that, while the bunker's existence was now confirmed, no credible document ever linked Dziemiany to the gold train or the Amber Room. The search continued under the shadow of skepticism, with every new core sample weighed against decades of rumour and disappointment. The Dziemiany case stands as a parallel to the search in Wałbrzych, reflecting a pattern seen across Poland, a blend of legend, methodical investigation, and the slow work of archaeological science. Each effort, whether in the north or south, reveals more about the scale of wartime construction and the persistence of stories that refuse to fade. For the archaeologists in Dziemiany, the hunt remains unfinished. The bunker is real. The rest, for now, is still a question waiting in the dark. Skepticism has trailed every new claim about the Nazi gold train, sharpening as the search has grown more elaborate and lucrative. In academic circles, radar and LiDAR findings have drawn sharp critique. Geophysicists from Krakow and Wroclaw point to the ambiguity of subsurface scans, warning that similar anomalies often result from clay pockets, roots, or collapsed tunnels rather than hidden trains. Some critics go further, labelling the Gold Train 2025 group's approach as pseudoscientific, especially after reports surfaced of dowsing and non-standard surveying methods influencing where to dig. Calls for independent review and access to raw data have gone unanswered, fueling doubts about the reliability of the evidence. For local officials, the stakes are more than academic. Wałbrzyk's city council has watched the legend reshape the town's fortunes. Since 2015, the gold train hunt has turned the city into a tourism magnet for journalists, amateur sleuths, and visitors. Financial records show merchandise sales, guided tours, and themed events have brought in between $150 million and $200 million. Kesia's castle, once a quiet historical site, now hosts regular exhibits on Project Riese and the Gold Train, drawing visitors from across Europe and beyond. Museum curators assemble displays of wartime maps, search equipment, and artifacts found in the region. None are yet proven to come from the train itself, but all are part of the growing mythology. Yet even as the town profits, officials tread carefully. Museum staff and heritage lawyers warn that any discovery of looted art or precious metals would trigger complex restitution claims and international scrutiny. The city's tourism director describes the gold train as both blessing and burden, a story that fills hotels and cafes, but also attracts controversy and the risk of disappointment. Local business owners, meanwhile, ride the wave of global curiosity, selling everything from replica gold bars to "I survived the gold train hunt" t-shirts. In Wałbrzych, the legend has become a living part of the economy, even as scientists and skeptics urge caution. The gap between promise and proof remains, leaving the town suspended between the hope of a world-changing find and the reality of unanswered questions. Today, the forest floor above Wałbrzych hides more than steel and secrets. It shields the unresolved legacy of stolen lives and stolen art. As governments weigh the risks of excavation, over $200 million in cultural treasures may remain locked underground. What is at stake is not just gold, but the unfinished reckoning with a past that still shapes Europe's conscience. Sometimes the real treasure is the truth we are still afraid to unearth.